and welcome to today's Power Hour, the first of this new academic year. I can see there's still quite a few people joining, so we'll just give it a moment before we make a start. I'd just like to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's presentation on changes to the Academy Trust Handbook. I'll shortly be handing over to Craig, who'll be delivering this presentation. But before I do, just want to run through a few housekeeping points. Next slide, please. Thank you. So slides will be available after the event, and the recording will be shared on our YouTube Power Hour library, where you can find copies of previous Power Hour events. If you have any questions, just pop them into the chat. And if you see a question that's appropriate, that you like, use the thumbs up icon to like that question to upvote it. And we'll try and answer as many questions as we possibly can. We can only answer questions about this specific event. So if you've got any other questions, please use the customer help portal. And we'll be popping a link into the chat just as a reminder. So that just leaves me now to hand over to Craig.
Brilliant. Thank you, Pam, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Craig Alderson, and I work in the Financial Frameworks team within the ESFA, the Education and Skills Funding Agency. As the wider team within Financial Frameworks also look after various other financial frameworks across both academies, colleges and independent training providers. So we have quite a library of different financial framework documents. But today, the event is all about the Academy Trust Handbook. And I appreciate the audience is going to be varied across long-established colleagues in the academy sector and possibly newer colleagues in the academy sector. So I will be going across probably old ground for some, new ground for others. And I hope you enjoy the presentation. The presentation would take approximately around about 15 minutes, and then there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end. Questions, you can start typing away on your keyboards. As I start this presentation, I've got a support from colleagues who can help with some of those questions. The handbook, as you will appreciate, covers a varied subject matters and different policy areas, hence why I've got support colleagues, because they're policy specific people as well. So the Academy Trust Handbook, the ATH, it sets out financial management and wider governance requirements. Where do those requirements come from? Well, those requirements come from Companies Act, Charities Law, HM Treasury's Managing Public Money publication, the funding agreement, your articles, and last but not least, policy needs of either the ESFA or the Department of Education, DfE. The ATH is a condition of the funding agreement, and it contains a number of musts and shoulds. The handbook gives you the definition, but a must identifies a requirement, a should identifies minimal good practice which trusts should apply unless they can demonstrate that an alternative approach better suits their circumstances. The handbook has been subject to an annual refresh every year since 2012. It is a lengthy exercise and ultimately ends with the Minister signing off the handbook before we can have it approved. The handbook is a collaboration with the sector and ESFA and DfE colleagues. More on that in the next slide. So, how is it reviewed? As I mentioned, it is a year-long process, and near enough a year-long process, and it starts as soon as the previous version is effective from. So we have started, or just about to start, on next year's handbook this month. We ask internal colleagues, ESFA and DFE colleagues, policy owners, of any areas they are looking to introduce, enhance, review, and also from casework from colleagues as well. Has there been any casework across the sector which has identified areas we might want to clarify, strengthen, etc. in the handbook? But we also have, again, another well-established working and steering group sector body where we discuss all our proposals. This sector working group and steering group have been established since 2012 also, and they are a very, very useful resource which we use throughout the year to test possible new areas in the handbook. The representation on the group, as you'd expect, comes from Academy Trusts of varying sizes. We do know that depending on the size of the Academy Trust, be it small, medium, large, that different requirements may mean different things, different pressures for trusts. So we are mindful and we do take in account of that. We also have auditors represented on the steering and working group, and we have sector bodies. The sector bodies are the Association of School and College Leaders, the Churches, Confederation of School Trusts, Institute of School Business Leadership, National Governance Association, and National Association of Head Teachers. And we are very grateful for all those bodies and Academy Trusts giving us their valuable time to help us work on the Academy Trust and handbook, as well as other publications. So during the year, we put proposals to the working group on variations of the handbook, and we discuss, we are challenged, and we tweak, and we represent, and that process goes all the way through the year to around about March time, where we start going for internal clearance, then subsequently ministerial clearance around the April-May time, and we aim to each year to publish the handbook in June. Granted, this year it was published in July. That, as we are all aware of, there was a general election, and that we had to pause our work on the ATH. Pleased to say we got the handbook published in July, albeit the last day of July, just to give trusts the opportunity to read and see what the changes are ready for the 1st of September. So the changes this year, I'm going to go through the main changes. So part 1, roles and responsibilities. The first part, we move content on the Register of Business Interests from part 5 of the handbook under the related party transaction section to the governance area of part 1. We felt that it sat better in there, the handbook flowed better with it all being in there. There is no new asks of that. All we have done on that particular element is just put in brackets as a minimum. And what I mean by that is that who needs to complete the Register of Business Interests. The handbook says that the members, trustees, local governors and senior employees, open brackets, as a minimum, need to complete the Register of Business Interests. It is for a local decision by trusts as a minimum. You know, you may have different members of staff who you may not classify as senior, but they have interests. They could well be involved in procurement. The golden rule is, if in doubt, add them to the Register of Business Interests for transparency reasons. The second area of part 1 is we've just referenced the digital and technology standards which the Department of Education issued. This is for information. This is to help trusts when looking at their digital and technology areas of the trust, to help them cover areas such as budgeting, buying, renewing contracts and correctly installing new equipment. It is for a guide. It is some good reference material there. Part 2, main financial responsibilities. Here, following the publication of some reserves guidance back in November 23, we're just clarifying that as part of the reserves policy trusts need to keep is that you have a plan for managing reserves. So that point is just really highlighting that specific point about a clear plan for managing reserves. The next area, 2.31, it is clarifying the current position we find ourselves in with regard to electric vehicle salary sacrifice. If a trust is considering using a salary sacrifice scheme for electric vehicles or extending it to more members of staff, you must pause, you must stop, you must contact the ESFA to get more information, more support from the ESFA. We are currently talking across government departments on the next position of EV salary sacrifice schemes. And we just ask trusts just to bear with us. We are working as fast as we can, and we hope to resolve this matter in due course. And there will be an update in the ATH of the final position, and that update will also be notified via the ESFA update. So any queries, anything you're questioning, please get in touch. The next area, part 3, internal scrutiny. Here, all we are saying is for this year, the requirement is a should. From 1st of September 2025, it will be a must. And this is where of how the Academy Trust, what options are open to them for their internal scrutiny. So for a trust with annual revenue income of over £50 million, the options for this year, you should only be using your in-house internal audit service or a bought-in professional audit service. From the 1st of September 2025, they must be a must. So there is some give and take for this year if your Academy Trust has annual revenue income of over £50 million. We've also clarified, given the wider scope of internal scrutiny, it's not just financial, it's also non-financial. So we're just clarifying the qualifications and or experience for trustees and peer reviewers, just to give a nod towards it isn't just financial. Part 5, delegated authorities. This we would class as a freedom for Academy Trusts. From the 1st of September this year, trusts are now able to enter into finance leasing where the lease category appears on the DfE approved list. If the lease category doesn't appear on the DfE approved list, you would still need to contact ESFA and the department. There is links in the handbook of those lease categories, but the list includes IT equipment, catering and cleaning equipment, LED lighting, temporary structures like classrooms. So we feel it's got a good broad look of areas which Academy Trusts would want leases on, and we hope that will help trusts engage in those areas. Part 6, the regulator and intervention. So again, we know that cyber is a big risk to Academy Trusts and other areas of the education sector. And we've just given you some more guidance. Part of the digital technology standards, there is some cyber security standards developed to help improve trusts' resilience against cyber attacks. The standards include conducting an annual cyber risk assessment, creating a cyber awareness plan for students and staff, licensing and updating digital technology, and controlling user accounts and access privileges. So there's some really good, solid advice on there and guidance. In part 6.16 of the handbook, it states, where DFE or ESFA have concerns about financial management or governance in an Academy Trust, a notice to improve may be issued. This year, we have added to the list of potential examples of where notice to improve could be issued to include where trustees and executive are failing to manage their school estate and maintain it in a safe working condition. I must stress the DFE's focus is about promoting constructive, supportive and ongoing dialogue with trusts, whilst recognising instances where there may be a need for additional action for a very, very small minority of trusts. Where DFE has raised serious concerns with a school, but it fails or refuses to engage with us or to address recommendations, we may look at an NTI. But the crux of all this is communication. It is, we want to be supportive. We want that two-way conversation. It's not to be used, that if there's issues with estates, that an NTI will be issued. We want the communication with the trusts. We want to support the trusts on this area. So that's the main changes to the Academy Trust Handbook for this year. What we did last year with the handbook, we simplified it, we streamlined it, and we found ourselves pointing towards existing and new guidance. We already have a good suite of good practice guides, which we link in the Academy Trust Handbook, and that's where Academy Trusts can find more detail about certain subject matters. We are always looking at these guides, we're updating them, we're listening to the sector to see what other areas you may find useful to have new ones. In the last year, we have updated the internal scrutiny good practice guide. We're currently working on the management accounting one. So we are keeping an eye on these guides to make sure that they are still fit for purpose and updating them where they are. And again, we use our sector and working groups to help us with this work as well. Again, in addition to the good practice guides, there is also further guidance. You'll find these generally in a lot of the grey boxes within the Academy Trust Handbook, the find out more boxes. So areas which we include is setting executive salaries, reserves guidance, which I've mentioned already, and severance payments, amongst other areas. We try and the Academy Trust Handbook to keep it as more of a principles-based handbook, but a lot of links to good supportive guidance. We also link to the DFE's governance handbook, now known as the Academy Trust Governance Guide, which was rebadged and it's split away from, historically it was a maintained and academy governance guidance. It is now specifically this one for academies. There is one for maintained schools as well. Again, very useful guide to look at all your governance requirements for academy trusts. We also have a Dear Accountant Officer letter where our accountant officer, chief executive of the ESFA, sends out on occasions to Academy Trust to fellow accountant officers. And there was one issued when the Academy Trust Handbook was published. And this, again, to highlight the main changes, but more so to give more of a human touch. It's written as a letter to fellow accounting officers to demonstrate and highlight what we are wanting to talk about, e.g. the ATH, and just give some more narrative and information on what the changes were in the Academy Trust Handbook. And this again, should be shared with your trust board at board meetings. So that is the presentation on the Academy Trust Handbook. And again, we welcome any questions on what I've discussed today, but equally anything else on the ATH in general. I'll now pass back to Pam.
Hi there. Thank you, Craig. That was a really informative presentation and really interesting to hear. What we'd now like to ask you all for is your feedback. Your feedback really helps us to shape these events. So if you can either click on the link in the chat or scan the QR code, then we would be grateful if you could fill that out. So just pause and just give a minute or two for people to do that. Thank you. Apologies. Having a few technical issues today. It's what happens in a live event. So yeah, just thanking you again for your time to fill out the feedback form. And just going to hand over now and bring Craig back on to answer some of your many questions that's in the chat.
Brilliant, thanks, Pam. So I'm just going to be, apologies, my eyes start wandering more so now. I'm just going to start looking at the questions and the responses we've got already. So one moment while we do that, and I say I may find that colleagues supporting me may appear on screen as well, just to give some more substance to the answers. So one moment. Yeah, I can see more of a statement, I guess, about the NTI and the estates. That is very much on the department's mind about capital. They do understand it is a real balance, and that they are working hard. And I think the key here is communication. I think keep contacting your DFE's contact. Raising any concerns, and just keep. And I think that it is the communication is the key.
Thanks, Craig. Just highlighting one here. It's around cycle to work schemes with salary sacrifice. Someone's asking where they stand with that. I don't know if you can help with that, or if you can won't need to bring in one of your colleagues.
The cycle to work scheme, the handbook doesn't mention any other scheme apart from the EV. So again, it is, that there is, guidance out there. There may be, I know definitely with electric vehicles, the Buying for Schools website helps with providers on that one. But at the moment, the handbook only deals with electric vehicles. So probably half an answer there. Really, it's not really a policy area we've looked into.
Thanks, Craig. And another one here we have. is around the register of interest. Why under the register of interest, would we have to declare a new relationship between a trustee and an employee, even if there are no financial interests involved?
I think it's always best for transparency to you know, if they I guess asking the question, there must be an element of doubt. Do you or don't you? And I think it is always best in those instances to declare it. It may, you know, if there's no financial interest, it may be one where you keep internally rather than registering it on the website.
Thanks, Craig. Question just come in. Someone's asked about the qualifications they would expect to have for auditors, trust auditors.
I think with auditors' qualifications, it's a bit of a grey area. There is formal auditor qualifications, but what we're saying here really is having some financial qualifications and experience. Internal audits is a being an internal auditor myself. I'm trying to describe myself really a little bit. You know, it's not where you've got your formal accountancy qualifications. There is a difference with internal audit. It's not external audit. So I think if the person's got relevant financial qualifications of a certain degree, and the experience, that's what we're asking for there.
Great, thanks, Craig. One here on the someone asking for clarification on the position on leasing out part of a school to a third party, for example, a nursery. Should they contact the ESFA in advance? And is this for new leases since September 2024?
But for that kind of leasing, so what we were talking about in the handbook, what's changed is more finance leasing, where it's about equipment. Where it's to do with leasing land and buildings, yes, most definitely contact the department, because depending on the conditions, the departments will there'll be certain requirements, but they can definitely is the best port of call is contact the department to find out what those requirements are.
Lovely, thanks, Craig. Someone's asking if you can confirm when the 50 million reference point is, please. Is it on the previous audited accounts position or projected in year position?
It's really for the current year, so it's what they are expecting to receive, if that helps.
Lovely, thanks, Craig. You may have covered this, apologies if you have in your presentation, but someone's asking when you expect to have an answer on when they can move forward with EVSS, electric vehicle.
Other colleagues may want to come in, but we are pressing hard. I think what has slowed down slightly is because the general election, new government, new ministers, but we are progressing as fast as we can, and we are pressing hard for an early answer. But there is, I think, as hopefully the audience can appreciate, that there is a lot of asks of different government departments at the moment, but we are pressing hard.
Thanks, Craig. I think we're galloping through these questions. One here asking where the handbook has a must requirement but no associated date. Is it presumed that the action must be completed immediately on 1st of September when the handbook goes live?
Yes. So,
right.
sometimes we have in past editions, there is this one slightly on the internal scrutiny where we're saying we're giving you advance notice that next year the internal scrutiny one will be a must from the 1st September 25. We've had previous ones around governance and trustees and local governors where we've given the trust time during the academic year to get a certain requirement in place. We may say from the 1st of March, but if no date is mentioned, it is from the 1st of September.
Thanks, Craig. Very helpful. Just scrolling through, I think there might be one on procurement. Procurement Act 2023 will come into force on 28th of October 2024. There's no mention about the new Act on the ATH 2024. Can you explain why that is, please?
There is a bookmark in the handbook what informs the reader that come October those new regulations come in force. We don't do many bookmarks, but that is one of 2 bookmarks we do in the handbook. So there is a general prod notification that things will change in October.
Thanks, Craig. Thank you. I think we are almost coming to the end of the questions, unless any of your colleagues have anything else that they'd like to cover. One here, can a MAT offer a seasonal travel loan? Not quite sure I understand what's meant by that.
I'm guessing got to do with train travel.
Travel.
But again, it's something which the handbooks doesn't cover.
No.
It could be more about paying conditions. So it's again, it's something which I'm not aware of.
Thank you. I think we're just about at the end of the questions then. Don't see if there's any more. Oh, there might be a couple more just coming in.
I think while you're reading through them, Pam, what I'd say to the audience is please get in touch through the various channels, the customer help portal. If there's any further questions or observations on the handbook, we're always wanting to improve it. As I've mentioned on a couple of occasions, the steering and working groups, we're very fortunate to have these representations from the sector, but that doesn't mean that individual trusts can put suggestions forward. Please get in touch.
Absolutely. And if perhaps one of our colleagues behind the scenes can, if they haven't already, pop the details of the customer help portal into the chat, that would be great. Okay. So I think that covers it. So thank you all for your attendance, and thank you for all your questions. And hopefully that's been really helpful for you. Just to let you know what's coming next. If you could move on to the next slide, please, Craig. Okay, so on the 3rd of October, we have the digital GAG funding statements, Power Hour, and 2 in October, we've got the 17th of October, Land and Buildings Collection Tool. So if you need any help or advice on completing that, that's the one to attend. Followed by 21st of November, our national event, and to be confirmed in December, the accounts return. So thank you all very much for attending today, and thank you for your feedback, and look forward to seeing you at the next event. Thank you.